Hello.
Hello, hello, and we're live.
Welcome back to the Second Paradigm.
All right.
This is David.
Welcome in. This is me.
And I'm Miriam. This is me.
Hi, I'm me. Me and Miriam.
That's true.
Hello, hello. Okay. And we're all set up.
Cool.
Very cool.
Oh, one little swig left. Very little swig.
Okay. Checking. Doing some checks, making sure we sound all right. And everything works. Welcome into the stream.
He said we can have
It's
music.
a great day.
Or I didn't realize you could sing.
Yeah, the alternative is I would just sing to cover the space that would normally be covered with music. Okay, cool.
All right.
That's pretty cool. And okay, the stream was your idea originally.
Yeah, but it's like a take it away, David.
Yeah, I get that. That's okay. What's up, Ben? Good to see you.
Hi, Ben.
Howdy, indeed. I can put the chat back on.
Howdy.
Hello. Oh, you're like actually just want me to take it away now is what you're saying.
Well,
take it away.
And back to you. Back to you, Dave. Yeah.
Well, okay, tell me why you wanted to do a video specifically on this, though.
Because nobody fucking talks about it. Because all the spiritual people are retarded and they don't want to talk about darkness because they're afraid they might manifest it, or that the darkness out there is the darkness in you and you need to heal the darkness within yourself. And it's like, ugh, please.
Yeah, we have a very different definition of darkness than anyone I see talking about things.
Yeah, well, I think everyone's retarded. I hate all the modalities out there. I hate all the lines of thinking. I think it's just absolute trash. So why not contribute our perspective to the big pile of heaping shit? And then hopefully people can see it and be like, you know what? That makes sense to me. I feel truth in that. Because everything else, it's maddening to me when I listen to spiritual people try to navigate reality.
I know.
Because I think they do a shitty ass job of it, and it's a perpetual state of making themselves bad and wrong. And it's like, listen, it's not the darkness in you and the darkness in me and the namaste fucking bullshit. It's like there's dark beings here that fuck with people. And those people, most people that have dark attachments, I would say they like it and they don't know who they'd be without it. Heard those words myself. Don't know who I'd be without them.
Yeah.
That shit's fucked here. And I want to just call a spade a spade. Yeah. And it's not, my ability to see darkness in other people isn't because I'm a dark ass motherfucker. It's because I can see it. It's and you see it too. It's not oh, well, I need to have this manufactured fake compassion because it's all about love, light, compassion. And I can't stand any of it.
Yeah, none of that stuff is light. It's gaslight.
Exactly. Yes.
There's two types of light in this world. There's light and gaslight. Most spiritual people running pretty hard on the gas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, and that's why I think people find it first confusing how much we curse and hate spiritual people. But once they understand our ideology, I think they start to quickly see why. And it's because it's all gaslighting. It's all spiritual people are gaslighting themselves and gaslighting each other, playing power dynamics. There's a higher percentage of narcissists and psychopaths in spiritual community than anywhere I've ever seen.
Many.
It's unbelievable. Probably a higher percentage of narcissists in spiritual communities than there are in corporate communities, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, 100%.
I mean, it's pretty nuts.
100%.
Pretty nuts.
And they stick out like a sore thumb. Once you spot that energetic and you know it, it's game over.
Yeah.
Game over. And as a spiritual, intuitive, sensitive person that can feel the whole room and feel everything.
Know that stuff.
What?
I said you got to know that stuff.
Oh, yes, 100%. You have to know it and you have to know how to navigate it. And every situation is unique, but they're not that unique. They all have the exact same scripts and it's laughable.
Yeah, that's why it's a famous dynamic, right? The narcissist empath. That's why everybody talks about it. And it's not because you're meant to heal them or help them or really anything.
Woof.
It's because you are the easiest person to take advantage of, because spirituality makes people naive. Spirituality makes people incredibly
stupid. This is my only 2 words. I know there's better words.
No, it's like
docile, malleable, putty in the hands of darkness. That's what you become when you're a spiritual person and you have no backbone and you think we're all one and you need to love the shit out of the toxic people in your life. You're gonna fucking lose yourself. You'll never become a person.
Yeah.
And it's a goddamn waste of time.
Yeah, it's like you make
none, Michael, none. I have no opinions on vrills. Get out of here. You yourself might be one with that snaky ass profile picture. No time for this. We're talking about what we want to talk about.
Not what we're talking about.
No. Are they real? Do they come through the eye? Probably. There we go. Black Eye Club, we know. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, but most of that stuff I think is missing the point.
Exactly.
Entirely. Okay, so we're gonna end up talking about some stuff that came through in a doc. This one. What Darkness Wants, the core philosophy behind a Dark Utopia.
If you don't already know, David is the world's greatest channel.
Thanks.
He has a mug to prove it.
That's true. It's not this one. This is just a yellow hydro flask, which I use every day. This doc came through, and it's interesting because this isn't like the core of our teachings. Like, I think people are very curious about our worldview because we have, I think, the most comprehensive spiritual worldview I've ever seen. And when people start to learn what we think about the world and our belief system and the way we make sense of reality, they go, wait, that all like actually fits together and like makes a comprehensive worldview. Like you could actually see the world that way, which I don't feel that way about most spiritual ideologies.
Agreed.
It's not that way. You can kind of piecemeal some things together and like Ho'oponopono over here and Byron Katie over here and then compassion over here and gratitude over here. There's lots of ideals that they stitch together, but it's not really comprehensive. There's no way to look out into the world and go, yes, I understand what's going on, other than like the balance between light and dark today is rather interesting. You know, like they make up just a bunch of crap depending on what's happening, and their opinion is just what other people think. But so I think when people find us and start to see our worldview, they go, oh, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Well, it tracks with their experience, their lived experience. We're just putting words to an experience that they're already living.
But our reality context isn't the main part of our work. This isn't even really the main part of our work. This is literally called a side quest doc. This is the least interesting thing to me out of our whole work, because our work is actually about intuitive people who are already trusting that inner guidance, who already have it differentiated out enough to go, yeah, I know there's this deep, deep, deep sense of rightness, and basically everything feels wrong, and I don't know how to navigate that. And I feel as though if I trust that inner rightness, my whole life's going to go to shit perpetually. I'll be poor and alone forever. It's like, great. You already know God. That's the thing we call God, is that deep inner rightness. And you already have enough of that existential crisis under your belt that you've grappled with it enough that you go, nothing in this world is appealing to me whatsoever. There's nothing I can build, nothing I can create, nothing I can contribute to that feels right at all. All I can do is sit and feel my problems and try to navigate these tiny little dynamics. It doesn't feel impactful. It doesn't feel like I'm helping anybody. It doesn't feel like I'm helping anything. All I have is this rightness, and it's leading me to a place that's often incredibly challenging. It's not in the flow. It doesn't feel fantastic. It's often very challenging, but I come out with greater wisdom every time. I can see myself sometimes being a central note of wisdom for other people. I kind of hold it together for the people that are around me incredibly well. Their problems are easy for me, but my problems feel impossible to me. I don't completely know what's going on. Those are the people that we're already helping. We call them the cutting edge because there's a divine alteration that's taking place in a subset of the population, and it seems to be those people who have access to God, right? You need access to God for God to do anything to you or your life. Most people don't have any of that rightness differentiated out enough to be able to follow it at all. So the things that they follow are their positive emotions. The things that they follow are how great it makes them feel, or how much status it would get them with other people who they think are good. All of that shit is irrelevant. None of it matters at all. And it's why you feel like most people's paths are incredibly hollow, because they are, because none of that has to do with God. But God is still very much interested in humanity. Light, the organizational intelligence behind the actual synchronicities that are actually good, not just manufactured, that intelligence is very interested in humanity, and it's a constant open door to what we call the ideal, to the best possible outcome given the circumstance. And often that's not nearly as good as all of the false utopias we have floating around in our heads, or all of the things that the world has promised us if we can just make enough money to survive and then thrive and then help at a grand scale. Everything that's before us in our civilization seems to be manufactured bullshit. And most the people we're talking to already know that, already feel that. They don't want to accept it because what that would mean about them. They don't want to accept that because what that would mean about the world. They don't want to accept it because it's so brutal to actually be with those deeper truths, but they already know it. And if you don't already know it, we have nothing for you, right? And none of this stuff even matters at all. So the whole of our work is about fine-tuning your intuition to be able to parse out what's actually my soul and my truth and what's biological manipulation, so that you can go even deeper into that divine alteration and come out with a rock solid intuition where you look out and you know exactly what's going on. You look out and can see through all of the bullshit. You look out and you see how dark it actually is. And that's the place where this doc finally came through. This is like 25 docs in. This is like, okay, now we're on the side quest. It actually has nothing to do with you or your journey at all, because we got that covered already. But now that we've covered that already, we can talk about what darkness is. So that's the foundation that we're going on here. So as much as I think people will find this interesting, I don't think that finding this interesting means that you're a great fit for our work or that you'll like really anything else that we're doing. So I want to start with that. But given that,
you'll like this video, but GTFO. This is as close as you can come.
I do think we have a very unique perspective on what darkness wants, but also what darkness is. So,
can they see this?
They can see this. Yep,
I've been talking. See us?
Yeah, I've been talking as this tiny little man over here in the corner while they've been staring at this. This is what? It's like 13 pages long. It's not incredibly long. But a
perfect darkness number.
Yes, exactly. The main thing, I'm showing it so I guess you can see what we're talking about. And it is available in our community, which was public yesterday and is now private. You can join the community, and it used to be you could browse the community. So if you click on the link, you can join the community. And this is for free. This is in our free resource library, along really all the other docs. For a while, we had things in our private invite-only group, and we started pushing stuff out into just our public space. So this is still very much in our main community on Mighty Networks. At some point, I'm going to put, I think, all these same docs just on our website. So if you don't want to join our community, you can wait.
Yeah, ideally, if you don't want to join, don't join.
Yes, 100%.
And if you have weird vibes, I'll delete you immediately.
That's also true.
I'm cutthroat, so your energy needs to be clean and clear. I don't fuck around. Hey, you know what? Before we get into this, though, I kind of have like a parallel thing that fits with this, which is surprising.
Okay.
I got a message from a woman today on Instagram that said, Miriam, period.
Yeah.
New text. I did not think I could dislike social media any more than I did with JB playing the part of POTUS. I was so wrong. Do you feel the same? It doesn't matter. I checked in. But I like having an earthly ally. So I sent her the Katniss, you know.
Yeah.
And then I messaged her back and she said, I feel suddenly on an island all alone, but that's what we have to do. The right thing, even if we do it alone.
Yeah. I know. That's the feeling.
I know. It's like
100%
perfect. Perfect.
When our people find us, that's always the feeling. It's like, hey, I feel like you guys actually know what's going on here, and I feel the same way, but I'm completely on an island alone.
Yeah. Because
that's what it's always felt like.
Her whole group of people, they're like, you know, diehard Trumpers.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's like fun when you're a part of the thing, but then when you start seeing through the thing, whatever the thing is, the narrative that we're given, when you start to see through that, it's lonely.
Yeah, 2020 I liked a lot because we were like, okay, BLM stupid. This whole thing's stupid. People seem like they're being controlled by the media to a degree that, like, I don't even know how anyone can do it. Like, I get the causes and I get wanting to be behind people, but these movements are very obviously manufactured and you're playing into a larger plan. Do you even know what's trying to happen here?
Right.
And you start to dig and it's like, well, we can buy these like 10 ladies a mansion. That's great, I guess. Like we can pretend we're donating to black people, but we're not. We're donating to these like 10 ladies and now they live in mansions. And like, what is this actually doing for anything? It's supporting the Democratic Party. Let's look at what the Democratic Party is doing for African Americans. A little rough.
Yeah.
You go back to, so you start to get into all of this and into all the politics of it. I liked that period of time and watching Brandon Tatum and Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson.
It was fun.
I loved it because I felt like I was seeing through a layer of the world that I hadn't really thought about before. I learned about politics very late. But then it felt like, and this is, I think, was the most exciting thing about that period of time that later turned out to be the greatest disappointment. I felt like we were starting to find our people. It was like, oh, like, all these spiritual people that hate us because we posted like, hey, have you guys looked into like abortion? Have you guys looked into like what it actually is? Have you thought about it at all? Have you looked into like any of these other things? Have you ever watched Trump for more than 20 seconds? Like we're kind of asking some questions. People are like, what are you, racist? What books are you reading? And I was like, I'm reading the Gulag Archipelago. That's what I'm reading right now. This has nothing to do with my white privilege. And I posted a picture on my Facebook with me in a hammock with my arms up like an arrogant asshole. And it was, I checked my privilege and I didn't find very much. Like, it was this whole fucking thing.
People were
just as so offensive to that time. But I loved that period of time.
We could have called it Asian hate, but you were too soon.
That's true.
You were too
That's
soon.
true. That's true. I loved it because it was like, oh, now we're finding all of these like-minded Republican people. And they seem to want and see lots of the same problems that we see with the Democratic Party and everything we're leaving. Like, oh, cool. They see clearly. That's so fucking cool. And then you spend a little bit more time there and it's like, wait, why are they all saying the same thing? It's like, wait, okay, why do they all have their own scripts? And then you start learning all of the Republican scripts and it's like, wait, this is the exact same as it was before. What in the world is this? These people aren't doing anything either. There isn't really deep resonance here. It's just an opposite script.
Yep.
And then breaking free from that was disappointing because it's like, okay, I thought that I was on the wrong 50% of America. Now I realize that like 90% of America isn't really aligned with what I actually think. Oh, and then you find the conspiracy theorists. It's like, oh my God, these people see the two sides of the bird incredibly clearly. I found my people. And then you start to poke around and then people start asking questions about Vril. And it's like, oh, wait. They all have their conspiracy theory scripts. And the conspiracy theory scripts are just as programmed as everything else. Where are they all getting their news from? Why are they all thinking the same things? And where does this come from? You start looking into the UN. You start looking at Madame Blavatsky. You start looking at the Theosophical Society, Rudolf Steiner. And you're like, wait, this seems just as organized as any other political party. This is the rebellion, the anarchy, the we want to take everything down because we hate it all and it's all corrupt party. And people align with it and have their talking points just like the Democrats and Republicans do. And then it gets even lonelier. And the clearer and clearer you see, the more it starts to feel lonely because you don't have that central node of community to be able to relate to people on. And I think that feeling is just always going to be the feeling of seeing clearly when we live in this system, because that to us is darkness. Darkness is the thing that is constructed these lanes of perception for people to fall into. We call them archetypal prisons. And when you align to that archetype, whether it's Republican or Democrat, or I was trying to think of an even better word for archetype and I couldn't really think of one, but it's like it's a great word. It's even just adjectives. Like people become adjectives, like cute and sexy, and they remix all of these different archetypes Or what's really popular in culture these days is awkward. If you throw in some awkwardness, you're immediately relatable. So then you have all these kids who have millions of views, and they're like, "Hey guys, it's really, really great to see you. Yeah, today we're going to be doing, I don't know, like Minecraft or something." And then they're just a fucking raving hit. And it's like, wait, this is so interesting. Why does this work? And it's because it's relatable. And it's like, wow, if they can do it, I can do it. There's all of these extra feelings that it generates. But you look around and you start seeing everyone walking inside of their own archetypal prison. It's a remix of all of these different, well, I'm going to be cute, but I'm also going to be awkward, so it's more relatable. And then I'm going to throw in a little bit of sexy to spice things up a little bit. And and it's like you see these cultural archetypes. I don't know why I'm speaking from like a girl's perspective.
Cute, sexy, awkward.
Yeah, cute, sexy, awkward. You know who reminds me of that exact archetype is Valkyrie. She plays that. Valkyrie plays that. And before I was thinking of Lily Pichu.
That's who I was thinking
yeah,
of.
with the cute.
Yeah.
And then there's VTubers who are like a whole other step of awkwardness because they're like, I can't even show you my face because I'm just so fucking scared, but I'm going to put up an anime character and we'll talk. And they're like very mild-mannered. But millions of views, right? It's like, what's happening here? There are certain archetypes, there are certain ways of being that work better than others. And you start to learn this, I think, very young, and you start to build your own version of your character, given your aptitudes and given your personality. You're not actually trying to find yourself. You're trying to find the archetypes that are closest to you that you can stitch together that'll function in society and give you what you ultimately want, which is social and financial outcomes, usually. Sometimes for some people, it's emotional, right? I want to feel good. I want other people to like me and to feel great. But often there's a very material driver for people. This entire system, it just seems like what life is here. That's just what you do. You stitch together some archetypes and you make it work, and you find what your purpose is in society, which is how do these archetypes fit into the larger mechanics of civilization? All of this is darkness. All of it, the entire thing. That's how we see it. The entirety of it, including the act of participating through self-sacrifice of your own soul's essence in favor of an archetype that gets you gains or gets you rewards, right? That whole mechanism is living inside of the paradigm of darkness.
I can't take gains seriously.
I know.
It makes me want to be like...
I gotta toss some things in there,
Gains, bro.
That whole thing is darkness. But what's interesting is, even if we were to talk about all of this, and I think I can go deeper in like many different directions, the first question that I think starts to come up is, why would anyone do this? What's their goal with this? And is what you're saying is that there are evil masterminds behind everything, like a really old school Satan rules the world and he's evil and wants everything to be under his control just for the power? And it's no, not at all. And that's the weird thing. And that's what this doc goes into, is their incentive is literally just to prove that deep rightness of the people that we're talking to, that deep rightness isn't valuable. Not only is it not valuable, it is the guidance of an evil dictator. And that evil dictator is God. That evil dictator architected all of humanity, and we're now inside of this evil thing where we are bound to the ideal, in our words, but to something that's inferior in their minds. What they're saying is that if you follow that deep inner guidance, and there's always the synchronicities, but not in like, oh my God, it's so amazing. Not those synchronicities, just like, fuck, I feel my whole life coming together to drive me toward this thing, or I was just about to run out of money and it actually felt very important that I had no money at all and was scared shitless, and then everything worked out just fine. It's like those kind of synchronicities and orchestrations. What they're saying is that if you follow that and you follow that deep inner rightness, you're never going to live the best possible life you can, because you're following God's idea for you. God doesn't know you as well as you do. You can build a better life for you on the ground floor here as a human than God ever could build for you. Why would you listen to something that's not that deepest longing desire of your really just even fleeting emotions. Why wouldn't you just build whatever makes you feel happy all the time? Why wouldn't you build something that makes all of the work, all of the tension, all of the growth go away, to where you get to live in a sort of perpetual paradise? And yeah, maybe you'd normalize to that first thing, but couldn't we make it even better then? What if it's just continual progress forever? And we all get to sort of collectively decide what maximizes the human experience, and we build an intelligence, let's call it AI, that can help us to construct the best possible world ever. Darkness, in my mind, it's not Satan with a tail, a pokey tail and a trident with horns, and he's really buff on fire.
He's sexy,
and he's very
sexy
evil.
and
He's
cute.
really buff and really sexy and really cute. He's so cute. He's so cute, but like a little awkward, so he's also relatable. Not that Satan. Darkness to me is the philosophy of people like Sam Harris. Not that he's dark or like the mastermind, but the way he describes reality from that atheist perspective, from let's just maximize for pleasure, let's minimize suffering, let's maximize our lifespan, let's maximize our health. We can find the metrics that would make things work. That's his argument against people like Jordan Peterson, who's more rooted in the Judeo-Christian values. Sam Harris's sort of arguments, to me, is the exact philosophy of darkness. And that's the weird thing, and where these lines start to get really blurry and hard to parse through, is darkness at its core sounds actually pretty good. It sounds pretty good. And there's almost a feeling, even when you're working inside of your relationship to God, even when you're following in the thing that you know is better than anything else. You look around, you're like, I know that taking this shitty fucking job right here, I know that dealing with this person right now and being manipulated and seeing it very clearly and like having to draw boundaries, and like, I know that this is better than making as much money as possible and going to live on some island somewhere away from all of it. For some reason, I know that I'm supposed to be doing this, and I can feel that it's right. Doesn't matter how hard it is.
Hi, Danny.
Hi.
I think of Ben being manipulated by Ronnie. Like, he knew he was being manipulated, but it was also the right thing to do.
The middle school, yes. Yes, I forgot about that. We just talked about it.
That's what I'm thinking about.
It's like, even inside of that, there's this little feeling where it's like, how do I know that this is actually the best thing? Right? And like, that is the core. That's the core thought from which all darkness sprouted. Is like, how do I know? I mean, sometimes it's hard.
Yeah.
Trusting that deep inner rightness, because we're going in a direction we don't understand half or more of the time. Like, man, how do I know that this is actually right? Like, wouldn't it be better for me to just like, let's just take like 6 months, make a bunch of money, and then come back and start doing the same thing? Like, this plus money would be much easier. Why would I allow this configuration of my life to be like this? Like, I wouldn't plan it like this. I would never plan my life like this. How do I know for sure that it's right? That's the core sort of root of darkness. And from all of that, you get, well, let's do it ourselves. Let's build a utopia. Let's prove God wrong. And it's odd. No, it's okay. It's okay.
I'm thinking of Ronnie working for darkness. He's like 12.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to get you, Ben. Soon you will give up on God. Ben Weston.
That's awesome. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
We've got to break it up with some giggles.
I know. Well, it's a lot and it comes quick. So it's good to break it up a little bit. You take some pauses.
That's awesome. Hi, Pam. Pam, I was just
Hello.
talking about you. Oh, well, now I outed you. Before I kept her anonymous. I was like, this woman on Instagram. Oh.
Yeah, we were talking about your message.
Mm-hmm. Busted. Sorry.
Hey, we were just talking about you. The only person we've talked about.
Oh.
No, just kidding. She's Ronnie.
She's 12.
She's a middle schooler.
She's in class.
She also
right
goes
now.
by Ronnie.
Shoot. That's awesome.
No, but it was just the most relatable thing ever, right? I think we all feel that. Those who are actually doing this and on this path.
Loneliness.
Yeah. And then I went into this whole
diatribe.
Yes. About how you see through more and more in every pocket of the collective that you see through that you previously thought was your people. Like, oh my God, I finally found my tribe. You see the exact same patterns, the exact same Stockholm syndrome to some new dictator, whether it's an ideal or whether it's a person, where they give up their actual essence in favor of hope, often. Or maybe some like financial gain or otherwise.
It's weird to watch the justifications that people make.
It's sad, truthfully.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Or infuriating, depending on the day, I guess.
Yeah. Like the whole like lesser of two evils, or like I voted for. It's like, you voted? What are you even doing still voting? It's like, oh, brother, you know? It's like, okay.
No. It matters. It matters.
Every vote counts. It's like, does it?
Yeah.
It's like, wow, we're really like, we've been brainwashed. Ugh. So excellently.
Yeah.
They've been at this for a very long time. But I think it's important, the whole idea that darkness wants to create a utopia. Because like the patriot truther conspiracy theory narrative is they want to kill everyone. And then you see those clips like the other day with the mRNA guy. I think I'm treading carefully. Yeah. I don't want to get put in YouTube jail, but I also refuse to self-censor. Yeah. So maybe I'll be a little more thoughtful. I'll justify it to myself by calling it thoughtfulness. But like,
that's how it is.
So then all the conspiracy theorists latch on to that guy in the new, $500 billion AI project.
Yeah.
And it's just like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, this has nothing to do with your day-to-day life. This doesn't matter. And then it's like, but you have to pay attention and you have to stand up and you have to fight back. Or it gets justified as like, well, it makes sense that there's these great advancements in technology. And like, either way, people are justifying it to themselves, even if they're like vehemently against, 2020. They're still, it's just weird. It's so weird. I don't understand how people are making sense of anything. And the truth is like, it's irrelevant. Let it go.
It's irrelevant and you're being used, right? And I don't think that's obvious. But I think you're being used. Because when I zoom out and I look at civilization as all these different pockets, right? There's all these different like communities. Each of them has something that's good on paper, and they stand behind certain values. Those are the values that I think darkness right now is trying to figure out. In what priority do these values need to go for us to live the best possible configuration of life? So getting people, especially people who are connected to God, to exist, this is actually more your point than it was my point originally. But getting people to,
I don't know what your point is,
live inside of, let's say, the Republican Party's wishes while being connected to God and watching what arguments they make and watching how liberals react to the Republicans, you can start to figure out what's good and what's not good. And I think there are times where things play out, like even where the trans agenda is going and where these various social movements are going. I think there's an element of it.
I feel like that's not even cool anymore.
Where they're trying to make it as extreme as possible to get the majority of people to sort of revolt against it. There's some intentional, at least it feels that way, intentional psychology crafting here of the majority. And the way you do that is by creating little extremes or by watching these different pockets play out their ideology. but their ideology was never their ideology, right? It's something that darkness is sort of working on.
Mm-hmm.
So we end up working on the thing that darkness is working on.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that darkness is working on it is by getting you to work on it, right? Like that's the reality of how this whole thing works. Because if we're selling our soul, meaning if we're choosing anything other than what our deepest knowing calls us to, and the things that we know ultimately to be deeply right and right by God, because our soul is right by God. If we're doing anything outside of that, what are we selling our soul? What are we exchanging our essence and our actual opinions for most spiritual people? What are we exchanging our actual opinions or actual thoughts for? What is that thing that we're becoming? The thing that we're becoming is the thing that darkness is working on. Like that's how selling your soul actually works. It's not a blood contract with that super sexy, cute, awkward Satan with the tail and the horns. It's not that. It's moment by moment, we're incentivized to be something other than the truth of who we are in our relationship to divinity. It happens so often. Like, I could make $50 more today if I did this. Is it right? No, I know it's not right. I know it wouldn't be the best thing to do.
I posted my feet pics.
Yes. That's not really the direction to go. Or I could alleviate all of my financial worries that I've been stressed about if I just go and get this job, and I know I could go get that job basically whenever I want. Is that right? No. Why does it feel wrong? I don't even know. I don't even know why. I don't even know why I can't do that, in quotes, because we could. I don't know why it doesn't feel right. When we leave that rightness, we are exchanging our relationship with God and the best possible path for us in that moment, and our evolutionary edge, our actual growth. We're exchanging our actual soul growth to work on a project for darkness. And the reason why there are incentives to work on these projects is because the world is constructed by the exact same intelligences. So we don't see it as like Satan with a tail. We'll say Satan sometimes because it's punchy, and it's as punchy as what we actually mean. But the way that we see it, at least the way that I see it, is that there is a hierarchy of non-physical beings that are operating in a sort of...
They're just so organized. It's
annoying
so organized.
To me. They're so organized. And there's not, it doesn't feel like there's any one particular ruler. It's not really like that. They operate in councils, and they operate as councils to be checks on their power, right? It is good. It is because they have to do that.
And a caveat, when you hear these spiritual people talking about their councils.
I know.
I'd red flag that shit.
It red flags for me too. Because I think lots of these councils work for the larger council. We call it the dark hierarchy. And I think most of darkness operates and respects this hierarchy to some degree, not necessarily because they even think it's great, but because that's just how the power structure is. Like I imagine they rule with sort of an iron fist kind of thing when they have to. And I think there's a lot of arguing. There's a lot of disagreement on what that ultimate utopia looks like. I do absolutely think there's some beings that thrive on the chaos and destruction and murder and like just want to see God's world burn. I 100% believe that. But I also don't think they're the ones in charge. And at the very least, they're not the majority in that hierarchy. The majority in that hierarchy feels like they're very much on this plan to prove God wrong once and for all. And I think that's how they keep the other beings at bay of like, listen, your plan is short-term, very satisfying. We can watch all this stuff burn. That's great. Wow, God suffered. But what are you proving? You're proving nothing. Right now we have access to a world where we've been able to entirely hijack the collective field. We've been able to take over and reprogram, in a sense, the typical grooves of human beings. And we've been able to corral them into archetypes of our choosing and give them roles to work on the things we want them to work on. This is maybe our only chance to prove that we can build something better than God. And if you want to destroy this, you're actually destroying our world. You're actually destroying our only opportunity to prove God wrong. Now, if you actually think God's wrong, we need to prove it to everyone, or you are never going to be able to live free, and you're always going to be thwarted by that pesky God that keeps getting in the way at every step of what you want to do. If you destroy this, God will rebuild somewhere else. That's not what you want. I think there's a negotiation that happens constantly, and those are the sort of conversations that I imagine and can sort of feel happening pretty often.
Yeah.
When people talk about darkness, generally, spiritual people, they're talking about evil. They're talking about those like brutal, bad people, or they're just talking about people they don't like who have a different ideology than them, right? Like there's plenty of people that think that if you voted for Trump, you're dark, which makes no sense, that light and God are on the Democrat side, right? There's plenty of spiritual people that believe that. Mm-hmm. I mean, spiritual communities in California, and most Californians tend to be that way. You know, it's like there's some demographics in it, but lots of spiritual people reduce darkness down to like, well, you need to be compassionate. If you're not compassionate, then you're dark. But they're not compassionate to the people who aren't compassionate, right? Like they're doing the exact same thing. They just have a code, they have a rule set, and they arbitrarily draw lines in the sand and go, gratitude is light, which means being miserable is dark. They take all of these spiritual practices, make them light, and look out and go, oh, so everything else is darkness except for these things that I'm doing. And that's why you end up with a bunch of spiritual people who are all polyamorous and just jack each other off and do nothing else. Nothing else. It's all they do. They don't work on anything. They're not creating anything. They often aren't contributing to the world beyond what they need to financially sustain themselves. They jack each other off. They dance. They do drugs. And like,
what a life.
That's where the ideology gets you, of drawing all these arbitrary lines and going, I need to keep being light so that I can be the light of the world. And one day everyone's going to see what light is because of how great my life is. And they're going to come join us. And we're going to have some hippie revolution 2.0 where suddenly everyone is jacking each other off. And we become just bonobos. Happy, joyous bonobos that suppress all of our emotions that aren't good.
Oh, man.
And when you start drawing these lines, what happens is you disassociate. You lose access to all of your negative emotions. You lose access to your opinions. And more importantly, when you see it in practice, you get out of the way. I think most spiritual people are just out of the way, and they're 100%. Focused on things that don't matter. Mm-hmm. Like when I hear quantum mechanics, or when I hear the way that the things that spiritual people think are revolutionary, to me just boggles my mind because I look at it and I go, you're out of the way. Mm-hmm. Like I don't think you're a net negative on this world. Like I don't think you're harming anyone. But I also don't think you will ever help anyone because you're just out of the way. You don't know how to engage with the world anymore. Mm-hmm. And everything triggers you. You think you're triggerless, but literally the entire world now triggers you. Your own thoughts and emotions now trigger you. You've built inside of yourself a trained bipolar. You've built inside of yourself these manic highs where everything is great and then crashes that you disassociate from. That's spirituality. That's what we're doing these days, just pretending how great we are. Light and love, everyone. Like, really? Is that really what the fuck we're supposed to be doing here? No, it's stupid. And it's very obvious the closer you look at it that like, oh, maybe light's not here at all. And I think that's why New Agers eventually go, oh, this isn't light. And then they become Christians, right? Well, I got to go back to the only other light I can find. And the only light I can think of is Jesus. So maybe I'll try that for a little bit. And I think we're going to reach a point where they go, oh man, there's nothing here either. And then they just become either normal people or they go searching again. Mm-hmm. We're in these long cycles of just seeking what actual light is and realizing, just being disappointed over and over and over and over and over again. But it's very clear to me that there's almost no light in spiritual circles or in really any of the spiritual aims whatsoever. Yeah. Like if you listen to the things that spiritual people want to do, I don't care.
1 second. I'm going to get Mullen. My throat is
that's great. Yeah,
phlegmy.
Yeah. That's great. And it's not that I don't care because it doesn't sound good or because it wouldn't bring people joy. I don't care because it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like it's actually God. It just feels like some busy work. It feels like people get duped by smart authorities in spiritual community, or people who have PhDs and say that they know how quantum mechanics works, and then they think that it's the frequencies and the vibrations are going to be the thing that solves everyone's problems, and if we can just all be happy and pretend and dissociate, that this world will be better. But if you ask them what's actually happening on Earth, you ask them, like, what are the problems that we're actually facing, they don't know. They don't know. And that's why I think it's the weirdest thing to me ever. But lots of spiritual people also seem to really like blockchain and seem to really like the UN's goals, which you ask the conspiracy theorist pockets, right? The truthers, you ask them, and it's like, that's the mortal enemy. Like, these are the people that are trying to control everybody constantly through a massive surveillance state. It's like, it's weird that the people who are doing as much research as possible to find the corruption are pointing at the thing that spiritual people are like, yeah, that's pretty good. It's pretty good. Yeah, the Georgia Guidestones, they're not so bad. Like, those things seem pretty, I mean, maybe not, as long as we don't kill anyone, you know, but that's great. We got to be in harmony with nature. We got to figure out a way to work with nature. We got to live in perpetual balance. They don't have an ideology anymore, and they're out of the way. And if I see, it's like, if I were to look at darkness the way that most spiritual people look at darkness, I would end up the exact same. And I know that. It comes down to like an ideological thing. It's where you end up when you see some perspective about reality. And the only way I've found to actually come to the conclusions that we've come to is by working with God, is by trusting that deep inner knowing. Mm-hmm. And yes, I channel, but my channel ends up being, it's not this like massive source of information where I just ask whatever I want. My channel ends up being helping me to describe the things that God's already walking me through and walking our people through before I can see what's happening, so that I can help describe it to everyone else while it's happening. That's the function of my channel. And if our biology wasn't so retarded, I don't think I'd be a channel. Like, if we weren't so confused inside of the process of what's happening and we had a much clearer access to divinity, I don't think I would be a channel. I would just be doing this exact same thing. It's like, it feels very provisionary and very like, yeah, it's not the best. Like, you shouldn't even have to do this, but everyone's confused, including you, and you can't guide anyone unless we have an outside perspective. So let's bring in an outside perspective. Let's have these conversations. And B's only job is to articulate what God's already doing. There's no teachings. There's no models. There's no do this and then you'll be better. None of it. It's just, here's the process that God seems to be orchestrating in your life and in the lives of those around you. Does that make sense? Sometimes it's like, yeah, not really. And other times it's like, oh, yeah, that does make sense. 100%. We do need to be more emotionally solid, or else we make really poor decisions. That actually makes a lot of sense. And there's this constant sort of revealing of the edges of the things that I can't see. But at the end of the day, it's not really my channel that's making all of this happen. And it's not B, it's not me, it's not us. And we tell this to our people all the time in like our group calls or our in-depth mentorships. We're like, we talk once every couple weeks. You realize that like, we're not doing this to you, right? Like, you realize that we're not really guiding it. We're not giving you homework. Like, sometimes we're like, let's push this edge even harder. Go make a video, even though it's impossible for you right now. Like, your job's to make 10 videos. Sometimes we'll help push edges because we can tell the direction that's most uncomfortable in their benefit, and we can kind of just push and nudge. But we're not really doing much. We're helping to articulate. We're doing the thing that B does for me. Like, we're helping to articulate this process that's already playing out. And that's what's so weird about trying to teach all of this stuff, is like, we can teach our models, but I start to get really bored because the people who we're actually talking to, it's not that they already know this, it's that it's not the most relevant thing. Like, the most relevant thing is the thing that's already happening to them by God. It's the thing that's already in front of them. And that's pretty specific. Sometimes it's so specific that it's like really personal. Like, it feels like it's only happening to you. But other times it's like there's just generally in the intuitive population, we're getting pushed into this one thing. That's the thing that's most important. It's not like, what's darkness doing today? That stuff doesn't matter. It's not like what technologies are hidden by the government from ETs doesn't matter. Like none of that stuff's relevant at all. So when we get into like all of the maps of what reality is, it's helpful to explain what's happening, and that's it. And beyond that, it's like it loses its helpfulness. And what I notice is that people find the context very interesting and want to learn it, but like I think the people who like the map often like the map because it's just the next thing that feels like it's going to make their life better. And I promise you it's not. The next thing that's going to make your life better is the thing that's already there that's probably much more uncomfortable than you actually want to be with, which is probably like, oh yeah, everything we're doing sucks and is wrong. And I know that. Right? It's like that. Those are at least at the near the beginning of the journey of following that deep inner rightness, what you're faced with. And this is why I think most spiritual people end up not doing it ever. It's because what you're faced with is I've constructed my life on characters that aren't me. And I've used these characters that aren't me to build relationships to other people who are playing characters or not. I don't even know. But none of my relationships are real. Oh, also, all the things I'm doing in front of me, I don't care at all. Brings me no purpose, no hope, no anything. I'm just doing it to get by because I feel like I have to. Everything feels wrong. That's where it starts. Like spiritual people don't want to be with that. They'd much rather learn what beings are on Pluto. They'd much rather learn the law of one. They'd much rather learn about the densities or learn some new fancy meditation practice that's going to make their life better. But your life doesn't get better by learning spiritual things, because most of the spiritual things, if you trace it back, it's Madame Blavatsky, Theosophical Society, Aldous Huxley. It's like it's this group of people that all sort of say the same thing, but I don't think they say the same thing because they're tapping into higher wisdom. I think they'll say the same thing because they're tapping into the dark hierarchy. It's the plan of what ideology would be most convenient for us to have long term for us to build their world. So it's weird, right? Because I want to teach this stuff, but it's like the people who I think were most interested in the maps, like they just got to sit down and fucking figure out who they are and what's actually wrong with their life and why things feel so wrong.
I don't like map sniffers.
Yeah.
Minor attracted person.
Yeah.
Sniffers. No, but I don't. All the people, all the like intellectual or like they think they're intellectual. Blah, 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 blah. I don't like any of them.
It never works.
No. Our people that really resonate with our work are just already living it. Like we said before.
And they
like,
find the map interesting.
Yeah, but it doesn't
really
fucking matter. Like it's like, it doesn't matter.
I know.
It's not the thing.
I know.
It's everything else. But yeah, the people that are interested in the map, you're right. It is just like a quick fix of seeking. Yeah. But they'll never embody it. They'll never live it. Like it's just.
Yeah. And that's what's odd is there's no way for us to teach it ever at all. Like we can't teach it. You don't teach a map of how God is intervening in your life. You know what I mean? You can't teach that process in that you can't reverse engineer it and replicate it.
Right.
It's like, is God intervening in your life already or not? And if not, then our words mean nothing to you. No matter how interesting they might be. And if so, then like you already know what the fuck you're doing. Like do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, take it away, David. That worked.
Yeah, thanks. That's true. I guess that's true.
He has to meet Comcast in an hour. So we do have a hard stop.
That's true. As maintenance man.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so nuanced. It's not the way I ever hear anybody talking about darkness, or like when I think of spiritual people or Christians or whatever.
Yeah.
I never hear them talking about it like this. Like they just fall right in line with all of the talking points. And you either point as like, you point at Klaus Schwab as bad, or you point at whatever the thing is you're supposed to point at. Whichever pocket you're in, you're told who the enemy is. And then you point at that, and that is bad.
Yeah.
But like it's all been crafted for them. Like it's like, wait, what? The enemy isn't Klausy babe. Like that thing, like, and there's also this element of like it still feels so disheartening, and this is what I said to Pam in my message back to her, is like, it's all theater. Like, and I know that gets said a lot too, but like, it's like genuinely, these people are archetypes, they're characters, they're caricatures, things are, accentuated, these other extremes are accentuated within them in order for us to look at, and then we participate in the play. Like, and we believe, like, it's no different. Like, we think Scandal, when we're sitting down to watch Scandal, which I totally loved when it came out. When we sit down to watch that, we're like, oh, this is Scandal. I press play. This is a show. Like, this is, she eats her popcorn and drinks her wine or whatever and sleeps with the president. Like, this is made up. But like, we don't have it differentiated out that, like, when we hit play or we scroll or swipe or whatever, it's the same thing. Yeah. We're so suddenly invested, and we have all these opinions that are like so extreme and so emotionally driven.
Yeah, it's the show called reality.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And everyone's LARPing it.
Yes. Which that became the clearest to me in 2020 with the masks. It just felt like actual LARPing. Like, I was like, oh my God. It was like we were at like some big Comic-Con thing, and everyone's dressed in these costumes, but it was a mask, but it was for the good of everyone else. And it had all these narratives that go with it. And it's like, yeah, but what if you just don't play? Like, then what happens to you? And you know what? Nothing happens to you when you don't play. I mean, there's like tension and there's awkward moments and people don't like you and you get the stink eye, but people aren't really even making eye contact when they're wearing a mask. You only make eye contact with other maskers when masked. Like, there's so much weird dynamics that we're playing out there. But anyway, it's just become so clear that it's all entirely made up. And it's weird to have people's, like, their heart and soul and like all of their vested interest is crafting a YouTube channel around these talking points, or crafting a whole identity around the thing that you've been given to talk about. Yeah. Like, that's wild. And to not ask where it goes or what am I doing, or like, that's why people have their midlife crisis. Like, it's like, maybe God has an opening to get in and like poke you or push you or nudge you in some other direction to start asking, like, is this even what I want to do? Yeah. But I think most people are terrified to even question that, because everything, all of these identities are tied to your livelihood, in quotes, are tied to your money. Yeah. And like, people are so terrified. And that's what happened. We saw that in 2020. People didn't have a choice, and they had to keep their jobs. So they had to follow the rules, and they had to do what they had to do. It's like, no, you could lose your job. Your choice was, you went against all of your internal knowing was your choice, and you need to own that. And if you can't own that, then you're fucked, as far as I see it. I mean, that's how I always see it with people. Maybe not. You're net neutral. David's a little more positive. But if you can't listen to that internal knowing back then in 2020, like, how am I going to trust that you're going to listen to it now? Yeah. Like, I don't believe you. Like, if you can just fold on a whim or close down your business because that's what everyone did, like, that's crazy to me. Like, that, where were your balls? Like, where was your backbone? It's like, oh, well, I just did what I had to do, you know? Or like, oh, but did you? Did you even check in about it? I just, it's infuriating, honestly. But anyway, that's the old 2020 stuff. But it's the same thing. It's the same thing of people getting manipulated and corralled into an ideology that has been crafted by darkness. And then, yeah, you do end up building their utopia that they want you to build. And yeah, you are out of the way. Like, you're not going to question it. You're not going to mess with it. You're in your own little silo, and you have all these friends that are also in their silos, and all your silos are saying the exact same thing. It's the echo chamber that's talked about in Spars, if anybody read Spars. Like, we're already in that. And I'm not interested in any of it. Yeah. I don't want it. Like, I want to think deeply about these things. Like, David, I love that he always asks, like, okay, so where does this go? And I think that's such a great question to ask, because people aren't asking that are in these circles. Because if they were to ask that and check in and just get quiet and not do any sort of like computer research, but like genuinely check in and ask, like, God, where does this go? They would get, I imagine, they would get the guidance to leave. They would get the guidance to leave that community, and that is too unbearable. Get the guidance to leave the marriage. Get the guidance to close up shop. Get the guidance to open up shop. And all of it is too unbearable. It's too extreme. How's that ever going to happen? Da-da-da-da-da. And I'm not interested in those people. Like, that's the other thing about this work, and I don't know why I'm going on this rant about this, but I want people that are actually, it's like, fuck, this is so scary, but I'm going to do it. Yeah. And it's like, yes, I know. Thank God. Like, that's all I have room for.
I think about the rightness is that you can feel when something is right for someone else, even when it's different than the way that you judge rightness for yourself. Like that, it's actually something external. Like if it wasn't, this wouldn't work, because we would all just do whatever we want all the time. We would be like teenagers. That's not really it. There's an external intelligence we call God. That's the source of that rightness. It's the thing that fills us up with that sense of rightness. And when someone else is faced with a conflict in their life, which is how reality presents itself, life presents itself as conflicts between two different values. One is a value of your soul. One is a value of the world, or something that you are being manipulated into, or whatever it might be. Inside of that conflict, from the outside looking in, you can check in with your own pathway to that rightness. You can check in with your real-time personal connection to God, and you go, yeah, that's wrong. Oh, yep, that would be right. And when someone goes, you know what, this feels like fucking impossible, and I feel like I have to insert the thing that's wrong. I feel like I have to. Like, everything in me is screaming, like I have to insert the thing that's wrong. But I know that it's not the thing that's here, the thing that's right. So I'm going to insert the thing that's right. It's internally, when it's you, it's like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Where is this going? Why is this so uncertain? Why is this so uncomfortable? Outside looking in, it's like, fuck yeah, sister. Like, fuck yeah, good for you.
Yeah,
good for fucking you. That feels amazing.
Yep.
And it's the exact opposite when someone goes, here's what I'm doing, and you go, ew. Like, that's your real-time personal connection to God. Sometimes it's flash judgments. That's still happens. It's biology. There are flash judgments, biological impulses that are different than what I'm talking about. But when you really feel into something and check in about something, or you hear someone else's life and you hear the decisions that they're making. Oh, well, you know, I'm gonna go do this, and I think I'm probably gonna work this job for a few years, and then I'll have enough money to do that. You go, oh fuck. Good for you. Good for you. Yeah, I mean, it's good that you're already thinking about exiting. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I know it's hard, but yeah, you know, it's just, what you got to do for money. Yeah, totally couldn't relate more. It's like, fuck. But inside you're like, what the fuck? Why? Like, can't they just see they don't have to do that? That it would be better to be poor in this moment and to freak out for like 10 days than to take this next 2 years to do nothing?
Well, right. And then I get pissy in those moments because I'm like, well, then obviously God's not real to you. Like, if you need to do something for money, God must not be real.
Yeah.
Because how? Then there's no room. There's no room for God to work with you. Yeah. If you're just going to, like it references in the doc about getting a job, you know, paying your bills and the whole.
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe you can describe it better.
I don't know if it's in this doc or not. I forget.
I thought it was. No, I think it is, because I sent it to Pam and she liked that. She said she'd never thought of that.
But yeah, that what before. Darkness is. The thing that we're going into is only getting more dark, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be like more destructive. Like,
right.
Like soon there's going to be fire raining down from the sky instead of silver dioxide. It's not that. It's soon you will be able to wake up in the morning and have your AI tell you what your financial outlook's going to be like for the next 3 to 6 months, and pair you with a job on next Tuesday that if you were to do just this one job, it would take care of that your financial obligations.
I know, that's such a big one. It's always money, and that bothers me.
Yeah, it's a really good control mechanism because it abstracts what you're doing.
Say more.
It's just abstract enough that it's not like, oh, I'm going to go do this thing that I hate in exchange for food. It's not that. That would feel like slavery.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what it is.
Well, no. It's not, because you have the freedom to buy whatever you want. It's not that we're giving you food and a place to live in exchange for doing something that you don't want to do, but that I want you to do.
It's abstracted, like it's one layer out.
It's one layer out. And it starts to abstract in the other direction too, where it's not personal anymore. It's not like Jimmy wants me to do this and Jimmy's giving me food and a place to stay. Mm-hmm. That starts to feel really wrong very quickly. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, Jimmy's offering me an opportunity to make some money.
Right.
Jimmy's the good guy suddenly, even though you're doing whatever Jimmy wants you to do. There's like because money is the ultimate thing that you're looking for, and you know that you have to work in order to get money. It abstracts it just enough where it's not that you're doing something you don't want to do for your basic needs to be met. It's like you're doing something you don't want to do because, one, you have to in order to survive, because that's just how civilization works for everyone, and it's actually really fair. And if you do it good enough, you can live a better life than everyone else, and that's what makes it even more fair. It's like there's a reward, there's an incentive if you can do it better than everyone else. Like it's abstracted just enough.
Wow.
That you can also feel as though you're working for Jimmy and you're not working for Jimmy's boss's boss, which is the dark hierarchy. Mm-hmm.
Right. Weird.
Oh yeah, it's very clever. It's very clever. Mm-hmm. So what you end up needing to do is to some degree control the markets.
Wait, there's
or control the incentives, and then you can control the entire population.
Too.
Yep.
Because it's sorry.
It's okay. It's good.
Well, the like responsibility piece. So like, yes, you can spend your money on whatever you want, but like responsible people spend their money on their mortgage and their food and their
and that's that sort of hidden underlying rule book of what it means to be a good person. Mm-hmm. That good rule book is the code of darkness. Mm-hmm. That's what darkness is the code of good.
Right. Right.
I think that's the easiest way to think of it.
Yeah, because for me, 2020, you wear the mask, you're good.
Yes. And there's plenty of arguments for it, and there's some arguments against it. And there are times where it's logically impossible to find, like, no, what's wrong about this? Why does it feel wrong? I can't even see. All I see is all the reasons why this is the right thing for me to do. Yep. There's sometimes where it's that confusing.
Yep.
But internally, there's this feeling of like, but it's the wrong thing. I don't know why I can't go in that direction. It's just not right. Mm-hmm. That's the wisdom of God. That's what you would be seeing if you had access to the entire library of all of experience ever. Mm-hmm. But you don't. You have access to some tiny tidbits and the stories you made up about the library of things that you've done here. Like it's tiny. It's like one person, and like I got maybe like 1% of it if I'm lucky. That's honestly way too high. How many zeros go in front of that to make it even close? Like we get this tiny little fraction of a thing. I look back to my childhood, I have like 10 memories, partly because I was traumatized as Jehovah's Witness, but also because also because I don't think we remember that much, but we have some narratives and it's sort of crafted. That's what we're referencing things on.
Yeah.
Like that's our library of experience. So of course, sometimes we're going to run into things where it's like, I don't understand why this feels wrong or why this feels right deeply in my relationship to God, because to me it feels right. And to me it feels wrong. God's saying the opposite, right? Like that's what's so infuriating to me about spiritual, like we're going to go with the flow and trust and like whatever the fuck it is, the spiritual bag in the wind to people, is that the thing they end up following is their emotion. It's not divinity. It's their emotion. Their emotion that's rooted in those like fucking 15 memories that are stitched together with some narratives. It's like, we're, one, very limited. Two, we're highly manipulated. We don't even know where we are. We're living inside of a very intelligently crafted system that's designed to output us doing things that we don't want to do, doing things that run against our soul. Like, I forget where I was going with that. Do you know where I was going with that?
I love that thread. No, I don't know where the fuck you're going. Maybe we need a laugh break because it comes fast and quick.
Quick and fast, and then he's ready again. He's ready to go. Oh, God. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. I think sometimes it bottoms out because it's too much. Too much too quick.
Oh, that's awesome.
Just, I like when all these ideas like stitch together because I think I like running through all these pieces of the map. Like I get kind of excited because I'm like, it's like I'm running from one piece of the map to the next, and I don't know that I've even necessarily connected them, but they all fit so well.
Yeah. Agreed.
Just makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it just feels true. And I've been such a sniffer of you and your channel, and I'd be out if I felt any.
Oh, 100%. I know. That's why I keep you around, huh? And because I love you very much.
This should be your checks and balances.
And also because I love you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're great checks and balance for me. If my channel were to be 1% off tomorrow, you would leave me.
Yeah.
That's what we got going on over here.
I know. It does feel that cutthroat.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be very difficult, but
I know.
Yes.
But like I would also hate myself, like I would couldn't do it. Like I would need to figure out what's off and then fix it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like we have that same ruthlessness.
Mm-hmm.
We got to get as close as we possibly can. Always.
Yeah. I know.
I think what I was saying was spiritual people was that they end up following their emotions. They're not actually following their real-time personal connection to God.
It's so manic.
And it's, yeah.
Or desperate. It's like very extreme.
Yes. Yeah, often it is lots of desperation.
And it's chasing the like feel better thread. And I think that's what was so interesting about diving into the conspiracy health people, because it's like you just want to feel better here. And then there's all these conspiracy health people that'll tell you why you don't feel good, and then here's their affiliate link so you can feel better.
Yes.
And no matter how many times I clicked on those links, I never felt better.
Mm-hmm.
Or the feeling better would happen in the clicking of the link, and like the item's in transit. I don't even fucking have the item, and then I'm like relieved.
I know. That's a marketing principle.
So that's gross.
Yeah, when you're designing upsells in a sales funnel, which are those really fucking annoying things after you buy something, where it's like, do you want to add this for $10? And then you're like, no. And they're like, do you want to add this for $100? And you're like, no. Do you want to add this for $12? And you're like, no. Those are upsells. And when you're designing those, you can't make the product solve the same problem. Because if you make the product solve the same problem, they already solved that problem by buying the first one.
Right.
It's not like if you have a thing about, like, let's say it's a ebook about building sales funnels, and they buy that book, and then your next thing is like a course about designing sales funnels. I already got it. My problem's already solved.
Mm-hmm. Because they got the ebook.
Mm-hmm. It has to be like how to optimize that sales funnel to increase your conversion rates. And then people are like, oh yeah, that would be actually, oh yeah, that is better.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to solve that problem like even better in kind of ancillary ways. And it's weird watching people get problems from the media or from their favorite truther media outlet, all the same shit. Gather problems, and then the only way to solve it is by buying something or by learning something or doing something about that problem that's not actually their problem.
Right. Yeah, you didn't have the problem. That's what was also crazy to me, is like I didn't have the problem.
Yeah, until you learn about all of the problems from all these people.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, that must be it. That must be why I feel uncomfortable. That must be the source of my existential crisis. That must be why I don't feel at home here. That must be why I don't feel perfectly healthy constantly.
It's because I need Sheilaji, or because I need to do a heavy metal detox. Do we have links to those? Yeah, we sure do. But like, that's not it.
And it's not that the products are bad or that they aren't real things. It's like, it's not the solution to your problems. And if you think it is, you're going to be disappointed.
Every time.
Every single time. Or maybe you won't even notice that you were disappointed, but at some point you're going to just get a new problem.
Well, yeah, and you open up your cabinet and you have all this shit and you're like, what am I even doing with this?
Mm-hmm.
Like Seraphina purpurea,
mm-hmm.
the pitcher plant that's good for monkeypox from 2 years ago that I got on Etsy. I still have 2 bottles of that.
Yeah.
What am I doing? What? I don't have monkeypox. I'm not having gay sex. I don't have a dick. Like, what the fuck? You know?
You bought it just for me in case I start swinging the other way?
Yeah. It's just like, it's so like, I hate that I did it. I even bought a pitcher plant, and then you have to feed it flies, and you have to take so much care of it.
Yeah. So I started taking care of it, but then I don't want to take care of your pitcher plant. So then I think I just let it die.
Yeah, it just died. It's fine. Because I was like, I'll just grow my own pitcher plant and make my own tincture and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But speaking of tinctures, if your throat is phlegmy, which now my throat is not phlegmy anymore, I highly recommend my Mullen.
I take Mullen basically every day because I also smoke cigarettes.
Organic vodka and organic.
It's my solution to keep healthy.
Organic vodka and organic Mullen. And what David and I have noticed is that other tinctures don't use organic vodka.
And they taste like shit.
I know. It tastes like college, honestly. It tastes like a fun Thursday.
I actually
thirsty
thoroughly
Thursday
enjoy
night.
your tinctures.
I know. David maybe overdoes it.
Probably. Yeah. Like I probably took like 4 times the dose it says on the back just right now.
Well, the dose that it says on the back is taken intuitively guided, which most people don't like.
It makes me so uncomfortable.
Like my neighbors that are like scientific DARPAs.
Yeah, it's very funny.
Taken intuitively guided 10 to 20 drops by mouth. He's like,
which is right.
He's like, I need to know like when, like how many times a day. I'm like, whenever you feel like it.
Yeah. He's like, if it told me to wake up every day at 3 a.m. and take exactly 13 drops, I would.
I was like, oh no, that's not that problem.
That's not how this works.
Intuitively guided.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a bunch of other tinctures up too. And one coming that I still have yet to order the label for. Linden Bloom.
That one's really fucking cool.
I know. It's like a sedative almost.
Yeah, it zens me the fuck out.
It's very calming. Actually, Emile's the only other one in the dome that has.
Yeah. It's like 5% of a body high.
You think it's that high? It's 5%?
5% is pretty low. 1/20th? Yeah. Maybe even lower. Maybe you're right.
You're
right.
It's just like, it just feels nice. Yeah. And it's not like altered state kind of stuff or anything. It's not.
Yeah. Danny's been wanting the Linden, she says.
Okay, Danny.
I know, because we talk about it every once in a while, but we haven't ordered the labels.
Sorry.
It's not here yet, guys.
I know. I'm just going to do it when it's right. I know. You've been wanting the Linden. Yeah.
I actually forgot I was going to order you labels.
Oh, it's okay.
I forgot I was going to order you labels once I got check-in. Said I bought you a Pilates machine.
Mr. Maintenance Man. It's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess to summarize and close up, and then I might want to eat before I go.
Yeah.
I think the way that you actually arrive at many of these conclusions is by just building a real-time personal connection to God. And that's where you're going to get everything that you actually need to know. And I think there are times where we're guided to things, right? Like I imagine there will be people who are guided to our teachings by God, and then very specific docs or very specific videos. I think that absolutely happens, 100%. But it's not really then important to like learn everything that we've ever taught. It's not particularly important to like try to figure out what we've got for you, because the thing that we actually have is a map of what it looks like to live inside of a real-time personal connection to God. That map only makes sense if you're already doing it. So the most important thing is just to do it. But from that point, there is sort of a point where, because it's self-recognition, it's actually pretty fucking late in the overarching journey that we're describing here. It does become important in this process of self-recognition to start to explore what darkness actually is and what darkness actually wants. And when you start to see that darkness wants to build a utopia, first off, things get way less scary very quickly, because all of the truthers and conspiracy theorists that are all like talking about how we're all going to be dead soon, the population is going to be like 4 people left, and you better be you if you have your red light therapy going every day. You know, it's like You better have your iodine on stock, so when everyone's radiated, like everyone dies except for you and 3 other people. That's what it feels like, but it's not that, because that would prove nothing, right? And there are these really quick cognitive checks to sort of validate that deep feeling of like, oh yeah, we're going to be okay. But then you look out at the collective and everything's crazy. And it's like, yeah, things might go wrong, certainly, but I feel like we're going to be okay. And it sort of validates that feeling to have this map where you go, oh, because darkness wants to build a utopia. Like things might go wrong, but it'll just be a right step in their direction. Like it's just where they want to take things anyway. Like it'll just be to manipulate our biology or our psychology or certain pockets of our collective to believe something new. Like, oh, that's what it would be. But then it would go into something that improves quality of life. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, okay, I don't really have to worry about my quality of life improving over time. That's not really as scary as they're going to kill everyone unless I buy iodine. Mm-hmm. So it's less scary, but it's also suddenly more important than ever that you prioritize that real-time connection to God and that you actually do what you came here to do in the first place. We call it the intelligence of your life's work. People don't even have remotely any sort of access to that really ever at all. Mm-hmm. You look around.
You can tell.
It's nothing.
It's regurgitation station.
It's regurgitation, yep, of someone else's work done bigger, better, remixed with something else, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. It's all meaningless. The thing that God ultimately wants you to do is first be free enough that you can actually do anything. Solidify, become your actual self, find your actual opinions, find out who you actually are. And that's a long journey. Again, not by just listening to what I just said and mapping it, but by actually living the experience of what's in front of you. You will become more solid if you live the experience of what's in front of you and you follow your guidance. But it'll get to a point where it feels like you're supposed to start doing something. And it's a weird thing because so much of what the journey was before was about doing less, trimming out all the bullshit, trimming out all the bullshit people, trimming out all the bullshit things, trimming out all the bullshit ideologies internally, seeing through more and more and more and more and more. And it feels like life slows down where it's like you're resting way more than you should to be a responsible human being. But at some point it starts to pick up. And I think that's ultimately where this goes. And it's what makes it all worth it. And you start to realize like, oh, I'm one of the only people I know. It's not that I'm one of the only people on earth necessarily, but I'm one of the only people I know. I don't know that many people, maybe a few thousand. Like I'm one of the only people I know who trust their intuition in the way that I do.
A few thousand.
Well, is that a lot?
Do you know a few thousand people? That's a lot of people.
Yeah, I know a few thousand people. I used to have like 4,000 friends on Facebook.
Flex.
So I traveled the country and met a bunch of people. Yeah, I probably know a few thousand people.
Yeah, but you don't know them. No, know them.
Yeah, but if I saw them, I'd probably like
forget their name.
I'd probably forget their name and recognize them.
Ask me what their name was.
Yeah. Like, fuck, if I still had Facebook, I could take a picture of you and then it would auto tag you and I'd know your name. Oh, let's take a picture real quick. We'll post it to our Facebook.
That's a good save.
But let's say that it was even a few thousand.
Yeah,
like,
unrelatable.
That's tiny.
This is like you and your high GPA.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's unrelatable.
So you have a 4.0 GPA and you get a full ride to college and you know thousands of people, right? Right? We're all still tracking here, right? Okay, good.
That's fucking crazy.
I hate when that happens. It's so embarrassing for me.
I like to be
relatable. But I'm not.
You're not relatable. Okay, but our iteration of how many people we know.
You know hundreds of people. It's like out of all of these hundreds of people that I've met, let's just say through my life.
Okay.
Through the many chapters of my life.
Okay.
I don't see anyone who trusts their intuition in this way. Like, I don't see anyone who's prioritizing this. And the way that I know is not just because I've talked to every person and I've asked them, but because I see what they're doing. And the thing that they're doing is the thing that I can't bring myself to do because it's too hollow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can do things that would make me look good. I can do things that would bring me status. I would do things that could make me sound good to other spiritual people or sound good to other corporate people or sound good to these types of people or sound good to this political party. Mm-hmm. But every direction I look, I know how to do it, kind of. I know just enough that I could go do it, and I know I could learn along the way. I'm capable of doing all these hollow, completely meaningless things, but I can't bring myself to do it because they feel hollow and meaningless. Why is everyone still doing this? Mm-hmm. There's no way that I'm just broken and everything feels hollow to me except for trusting that deep inner rightness. I think they actually have that deep inner rightness too, but they can't bring themselves to do it because it's too scary. Mm-hmm. They can't bring themselves to trust it because it's too nonsensical. It's too illogical. It's too irresponsible. It's too lazy. It's too bold. At some point, you start to realize that the thing that you're doing is incredibly important. And that's where your significance lands. Mm-hmm. And you need your significance to land in order to have any sort of motivation inside of doing this thing from divinity. You have to rework your entire motivational system. It's a long fucking journey because you have to unwind all of the patterns and programs that were put inside of you by this collective that you thought you had to install in order to function. You have to uninstall it all, break everything down, figure out who's left, find your soul again, then rebuild your entire motivational system to work inside of God, because you aren't going to get the same incentives like immediate cash or social affirmation that previously felt like a sense of progress. Mm-hmm. Fuck. Big journey, very difficult, unbearable at times emotionally, very, very, very difficult, but probably the most significant thing that I could ever do. And given what I know about the world, it's one of the most significant things I see around. Because I don't really care about what most people are doing. I don't care how much money it makes them or how spiritual it sounds or how great it makes them sound, how good it is. I don't really care about most people's projects. They're stupid. I don't care at all. The things I care about are the people that are trusting that deep inner rightness. And I can tell when they are, and they can tell when they are. And they know that it's hard. And they know that there's something on the horizon that's probably good, they hope, because they're trusting God. That's so unbelievably significant because nobody else is doing it, which means as the cutting edge, which is what we call our people that are doing this, we are preserving, maybe building from scratch, the last hope for humanity at large to have a relationship with God whatsoever and access to what God's trying to do. We're building the alternative to everything else. That's nuts. That's a pretty fucking big deal. And when that significance lands, which is very hard because spiritual people are incredibly insecure, don't want to be arrogant, don't want to think that highly of themselves.
True.
Don't really think that highly of themselves.
Also true. It's easier for me to think everyone's retarded, and I'm also
yeah, even that's easier. Yeah, it's like, well, I'm retarded and not that great, but like everyone else is more retarded. It's like, no, everyone's neutral. Everyone's doing the thing that they're doing, that they're programmed to do. Like if it's like you could switch a soul in that body in that circumstance, you could switch them out and nothing would change. That's how you know it's neutral.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, it's like the actual NPC. Yeah.
But like I have the opportunity to do something that's actually beneficial for the world here. That's not just a carbon copy of everything that's already trying to be architected or just moving forward an agenda that I don't actually believe in. I don't need to sell my soul for
a small
anything.
Fry. Sold my soul to the devil for a small fry.
And Krispy Kreme and all my dreams. Yeah, we don't have to. We don't have to at all. I think that's at least the bet that Miriam and I are constantly making. We're I don't know how many years in now, quite a few. We're making the bet that that path goes somewhere. If you follow that rightness, 1, you don't die. 2, you do something significant over time.
That's true. You do not die.
And there's this feeling inside of all of it, and it's actually really fucking cool. There's this feeling that should be enough, but it's still not emotionally satisfying. But it is cool to note. And I think all of our people can relate to it, especially those that have been around for a long time. Where you look around, first you look at your life and you go, yeah, it's okay. It could be better. I know it could be better. I hope it gets better at some point. But then you look around and you go, there's not a single person I would trade a life with. Not a single person. Nothing. I want nothing. I don't like this in particular. I don't really like this place in particular. I don't really like that what I'm being guided to do feels actually impossible. But I wouldn't trade this with anyone. It's like the realization lands of like, oh, that's what David and Miriam and God mean when they say the best possible outcome given the circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
It's that given the circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
It's like given who we are, where we are, the world that we live in,
the limitations
of our own biology, the limitations of other people's biology, the limitations of the collective right now in this moment. It's like this may be as much as you can help right now.
Mm-hmm.
But you can certainly prepare even more to be even more capable, and you can start building some of the foundation. It's like that might be it, but it's the best given the circumstances. And there's something actually really profound and amazing about that at the end of the day. It's like, man, if I look around and it's better than anything else I see, how can I actually be bummed about that?
Mm-hmm.
I'll find a way, but I don't think it's the correct emotional response.
I was going to say, I can find a way to be bummed about it. For sure.
Can't we all? Can't we all? Yeah, mostly just because it's uncomfortable. But all right, I gotta pee, gonna eat, and then I'm gonna go meet Comcast. Good stuff. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. Thanks for suggesting the live.
Yeah, you're welcome.
This is fun.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll do more.
Take it away, David.
And if you're
good at that,
if you're already in the community,
you do have to pee.
I'm starting to arch my back a little bit and clench my legs. If you are already in the community, then you can read the What Darkness Wants doc. There's a link in the description actually that'll take you directly there. If you're not already in the community, you can sign up if it feels right. If it doesn't feel right to you or to us, you probably won't have access to it in the near future. Penn goes, go pee!
Arching my back. Squeezing my thighs.
But at some point, I'll put the docs on the website. At some point. We'll see. All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Toodles.
I don't have the button.